Sometimes when you iterate on a design too many times, it's easy to miss the obvious. As some people suspected, my get global transform errors were because I was calling lookat for ships outside the scene. Somehow I missed the critical detail that lookat operates on global positions. I just assumed it was relative to the parent. And now that I know, maybe this explains some of the other strange problems I've had in the past. But anyway, now that ship movement is entirely cosmetic, it doesn't really matter. I don't need to move ships outside the scene. I was only doing it so that when you arrived somewhere, ships would already be in a correct position, but now I've done the work to fake ships arriving before you by advancing through their movement phases instantaneously, so here's how it works now. Every ship has a location ID for the space station or hyperspace link they're currently in, and if it's not the same location the player is in, that's it. It doesn't matter how many docking pads are full or how long it takes them to land, because the assumption is that sometime during the day they'll get to land and conduct their business. The director follows the player's ship, and every time you enter or exit a hyperspace link, it checks to see what ships are in the same location as you and adds them to the scene while removing others. It also swaps in and out the scenes for the space stations, and once they get added, they take responsibility for animating all the ships that are present. To start, they make every ship invisible and place them in a pending state. Then they assign a random time offset to every ship other than the player's. On the first frame, each ship is advanced through its movement phases until that time offset is used up, or if it's a negative offset, it'll remain in the pending phase until the time counts up to 0. Depending on the random duration of the docked phase, it's possible for ships to get through all of their phases of movement and go back out to hyperspace, except they're not really going to hyperspace, they're just made invisible again, put back in the pending phase, and given a new random delay. When the player goes to hyperspace, the director advances to the next day, allowing agents to send their own ships into hyperspace. There the director handles ship movement because it's very simple. Everyone just moves forward in a straight line, except for attackers, which I'll get to in a moment. So that's basically it. Ship movement is a lot simpler and more efficient than it used to be, and now that my Mac build is fixed, I can actually show you what it looks like to follow through the different cinematic camera views. Some of this will probably change later on when I do more visual polish, but it's a proof of concept at least. Now because I'm carrying cargo, the pirate agent queued an encounter. Right now it's not scaling the encounter difficulty by cargo value, it's just sort of a placeholder. But this is actually the first time I've put combat back in the game since around the time I stopped working on AI. So it turns out a lot of things have been broken by the changes since then, and I've spent a lot of time debugging just to get this far. Some stuff is still broken, and some stuff is hacky and unfinished. There are a couple of new things though. I've offloaded the AI to a separate thread, so things are a lot smoother while it's thinking. That was actually quite simple to do, as long as nothing's actually happening while the AI is thinking. It waits until each action is finished before picking the next one, and it'll probably stay that way just because sometimes the outcome of an action isn't known up front. If it plans based on its assumption that a shotgun blast will destroy your unit, and it doesn't, well, I'd rather not solve that problem as long as it's fast enough the way it is. The other new thing is how I populate enemy ships. The test encounter I had way back was fully hard-coded, and I thought about doing procedural generation here, but I've settled instead on having preset layouts that I choose from at random. Making a bunch of layouts by hand is a lot easier than making sure procedural generation will always make sense, and mods will be able to add new layouts. And of course, that means more dev tools, but rather than making a whole new UI for placing items in ships, I'm just using what's already in the game, augmented with some cheats and commands from the in-game dev toolbox. This might change closer to release, but for now I can toggle the toolbox at any time to give myself access to every item and ship in the game, and once I put together a layout I like, I can save it. I can also set the difficulty level for this layout, so for instance I can put more crew members in more difficult encounters. It intentionally doesn't save the specifics of individual crew, just their position and level, so individuals can be picked dynamically. But right now their level is completely meaningless because I haven't brought over the XP and perk system from the prototype yet. That's coming up very soon on my to-do list. I'm also assigning weapons completely at random for now, but I want to find a way to gate them based on difficulty level, and I'll need to assign other equipment too. That's something I'll probably figure out when I start moving equipment and ship parts from the old system to the new mod-based system. So clearly I've still got a lot of work to do, but I've solved all my problems from last week, and I think I'm getting back up to a good pace. I've also started working on the save and load system, so maybe that's something I'll be talking about next week. I'm hoping in the next few weeks I can finish off the gameplay systems and move on to content, which is what I've been looking forward to for a long time. Honestly, coming up with new weapons and items and thinking of new things I can do within the gameplay systems is the most fun part to me. In the meantime, it always helps me out if you hit the like button, spread the word, and subscribe if you haven't already, and of course, thanks for watching.